Who would want to live next to a nuclear waste graveyard? Well, here in the southwest of England, 250,000 people already do, and nobody has ever really asked for their say-so. Scott Bingham investigates the reasons for 25 years of radioactive dumping here at Devonport Dockyard in the city of Plymouth, and asks why an end is still not in sight.
Every Monday morning at 11:30, the Navy tests the siren it would use in the event of a nuclear emergency. People living here close to Devonport Dockyard have grown used to this sound, but they hope this is the only time they'll ever get to hear it.
The reason for the drill?
I name this ship Dreadnought. May God bless her and all who serve in her.
The launch in 1960 of the first of Britain's fleet of nuclear-powered submarines. Their maintenance at Devonport Dockyard has become a mainstay of the Plymouth economy. But each contains tons of radioactive steel and nuclear fuel, and the problem that's never been solved completely is what to do with all that once the sub's days at sea come to an end. Originally, the Navy planned to send the vessels, minus their fuel, to the bottom of the ocean.
Right up until '89, when it gave evidence to the House of Commons Defence Committee, and also in '91, it still held out that dumping, scuttling submarines was a perfectly legitimate approach. And it was ruled completely out of order. And since that time, there's been an absolute saga of indecisiveness, ineptitude, and really, quite frankly, lost in the desert on behalf of the MOD and the Royal Navy.
It's an issue which has long caused controversy, like the protests which greeted retiring HMS Conqueror when she sailed into Devonport for the last time. Campaigners made a grim prediction about the fate of the contaminated vessel.
Are we going to be faced with seeing 10 years' time HMS Conqueror still moored up in the Tamar, and perhaps with 2 or 3 other submarines with it as well?
Even they never imagined that 25 years later, Conqueror would still be moored at Devonport, and that she'd be joined by 11 more retired and contaminated subs. So why has Plymouth ended up with this radioactive graveyard? The most dangerous part of the submarine is its radioactive fuel. In the early days, that was removed and sent by train to Sellafield in Cumbria. But in 2002, the nuclear safety regulator ruled that the method used wasn't safe. So 8 of the retired subs still have that fuel on board. A new facility is now being built at Devonport. When completed, it will sit above the retired subs, allowing access to their reactor compartments. Their fuel will then be removed and sent on its 400-mile rail journey to Sellafield. The contaminated vessels which house the fuel could also then be taken out. But where that would end up is unclear. The government wants to create an underground storage site for such nuclear waste, a hugely controversial idea that's decades from being delivered. In the meantime, are the subs and their contents a risk? The MOD did not want to be interviewed for this film. In a statement, it said retired subs are stored safely and securely under a strict schedule of maintenance and inspection. John Large is an internationally renowned nuclear consultant. He says the mere fact of where the subs are breaks a fundamental rule of nuclear safety.
The first rule of nuclear power is to separate the radioactivity from the public, and that's done by 2 ways. One is by containment structures, and the second one is to keep the public well away. And of course, you break that rule at Devonport because the public, 250 or so many thousand souls in Plymouth, are crammed around the historic dockyard.
If and when defuelling work restarts on the retired subs, it will be in a part of the dockyard currently under so-called special measures. They were imposed by the nuclear safety regulator, worried about ageing facilities and safety breaches. But the local MP insists there's no significant risk.
You know, you can never eliminate risk completely, but I do think they've done everything physically possible to do so, and I think it's important we communicate that over to the people who live here, and so that we can sort of allay concerns that they've got.
Most safety procedures at Devonport are concerned with day-to-day working practices within the dockyard. But one expert believes recent events have reinforced the need to also be prepared for acts of sabotage.
A well-planned incident, which could include terrorist attack, of course, can actually release energy from the nuclear fuel. From the way in which the nuclear fuel is encased, the particular materials that are used can produce gases like hydrogen that can create extreme and severe damage to all three levels of containment and release the radionuclides, that's the radiotoxicity, from the fuel into the atmosphere to come down over a town.
The MOD said it's simply not credible that such an event could happen. 13 years ago, 2 anti-nuclear protesters did manage to break into the dockyard. They climbed on board a sub before they were discovered. Security was stepped up.
At the moment there is a heightened terrorist threat against the UK. As far as I'm aware, there's nothing specific against the dockyard, but you know, the alert state is extremely high. And I know that everyone works down there. It's their number one priority and they take it very, very seriously.
However unlikely it may be, how would Plymouth cope if the siren went off for real?
If you live close to Devonport Dockyard, then you'll have been given one of these leaflets, which tells you what to do in the event of a nuclear emergency. The advice is to go indoors, stay indoors, and to tune in to local TV and radio for more information.
I took to the streets of Keyham, a stone's throw from the dockyard, to find out whether locals trusted that advice.
If there was a threat, I'd probably jump in the car and go as far away as possible. To be quite honest, I think that's what I'd do, put my dog in the car and go.
The advice in this leaflet is to go in, stay in, close the doors and windows and tune in to local radio or TV for more information. Yeah. Is that what you do?
I'd probably go on Facebook, to be honest.
I used to work on nuclear submarines.
So you know all about it?
So I'm not particularly worried that there would be a major incident in Devonport Dockyard. I don't think there ever would be.
The dockyard has seen its fair share of anti-nuclear demonstrations over the years, but the number of people taking part has only amounted to a fraction of the thousands who turned out in 1993 to support Devonport's successful bid to win a big subs refit contract, a reflection perhaps of the continuing importance of the dockyard to the city's economy.
They are absolutely vital to what we're trying to do here in Plymouth in terms of regenerate and rebuild our economy. We've always been a naval city, and I'm really proud of that heritage, and I'm really pleased that it's continuing.
The dismantling of Devonport's growing collection of retired subs will eventually help secure more skilled jobs. Whatever happens, these boats, with their radioactive contents, are going nowhere fast, and 4 more are on their way.
I talk about this situation at Devonport lasting for another 10, 20 years. In many ways, Devonport has been assigned its notoriety of being a radioactive waste dump for many a year to come.